Commander stood on the bridge of his dying ship and watched his world burn. He could see the planet Zephyr turning red and black. Cities that had stood for thousands of years were now nothing but smoking craters. The beautiful blue oceans were boiling away into space. "Sir, we have lost contact with the Fourth Fleet," reported his communications officer. Her voice shook with fear. That makes all of them, sir. All our fleets are gone." Closed his 4 eyes and tried to think. 6 months ago, the Confederation had been the proudest alliance in this part of the galaxy. 7 different alien races working together in peace. They had built wonderful cities, created amazing art, and lived happy lives for over 1,000 years. Then the Void Swarm came. Nobody knew where the machines came from. They appeared at the edge of space like a plague of metal locusts. Ship after ship, each one black as the empty space between stars. They did not talk. They did not negotiate. They only destroyed. The first battle had been a disaster. The ships were built for exploration and trade, not war. Their weapons were designed to protect against pirates, not fight a real military force. The Void Swarm tore through their defenses like paper. "How many ships do we have left?" asked his tactical officer. "Across all systems, sir. Maybe 300. The enemy has. We estimate 50,000 vessels in their main fleet." 50,000. Felt his heart sink. When this war started, the Confederation had controlled 47 star systems. Now they held only 5. Soon it would be 0. "Sir," the communications officer spoke again, "we are getting reports from the outer colonies. The swarm is moving toward the core worlds. They will reach Prime in 3 days. Prime, the heart of the Confederation, home to 3 billion souls. If it fell, their entire civilization would be extinct." Walked to his command chair and sat down heavily. His ship, the Harmony's Echo, had been the pride of the Confederation fleet. Now it drifted powerless in space, its engines dead and half its crew gone. Around him, the survivors of a once great armada hid in asteroid fields like frightened children. "Open a channel," he said. "Send this message on all frequencies to every known civilization in the galaxy." The bridge crew looked at him with surprise. Broadcasting their location was dangerous. The Void Swarm might hear them, but was past caring about danger. "Channel open, sir." Took a deep breath and began to speak. "This is Commander of the Confederation flagship Harmony's Echo. To any civilization receiving this transmission, we are facing complete extinction. An enemy calling themselves the Void Swarm has destroyed our fleets and is burning our worlds. Our combined forces once numbered in the thousands. Now we have only scattered remnants hiding in dead systems." He paused, looking at his crew. These brave souls had followed him through 6 months of running and hiding. They deserved better than this. "We have perhaps days before our core systems fall. 3 billion civilians wait on Prime with no protection except our broken ships. The enemy advances with overwhelming force. We cannot stop them alone." His voice cracked slightly. In all his years as a commander, he had never felt so helpless. "Please, we beg any who can hear this transmission. Send us anything you can spare. Ships, weapons, supplies, medical aid, anything at all. We are getting massacred out here, and we have nowhere else to turn. Our children are counting on anyone to answer this call." He gestured to cut the transmission, then changed his mind. "To those species who have ignored our previous requests, we understand your reluctance to become involved. But know this, the Void Swarm will not stop with us. They are a plague that consumes everything in their path. Today it is the Confederation. Tomorrow it could be your world's burning." The transmission ended. Silence filled the bridge. For the next several hours, responses came in. Most were what expected: polite refusals and expressions of sympathy. The claim they were too far away to help. The Crystal Empire said they could not risk their own fleets. The Trade Federation offered to sell them weapons at a discount, but wanted payment the Confederation no longer had. Some responses were worse. The hegemony actually laughed, calling the weak for letting machines defeat them. Others did not respond at all. As the hours passed, felt hope dying in his chest. His communications officer kept monitoring the channels, but each new message brought the same answer. No help was coming. "Sir," she said softly, "there is one more response. From the edge of the galaxy, a species I have never heard of before." "What do they call themselves?" "Humans, sir. The message is very short." Frowned. He had been a diplomat for many years before becoming a military commander. He knew most of the civilizations in the galaxy, at least by name, but these humans were unknown to him. "Play the message." A new voice filled the bridge. It spoke the common galactic language with a strange accent. The tone was calm, almost casual, like someone discussing the weather. "Message received, Commander. We have reviewed your tactical data and enemy assessments. Help is en route to your position. Estimated time of arrival, 72 hours. Hold your defensive line until we arrive." That was it. No grand speeches about friendship between species. No demands for payment or alliance agreements. Just a simple promise to help. "Sir," his tactical officer spoke up, "I ran a search on these humans. They appear to be from a single star system on the galactic rim. No major trade relationships. No known military conflicts. They seem to be a very small civilization." Felt disappointment wash over him. He had hoped for a moment that real help might be coming. But what could one small species do against the void swarm? Still, it was something. In a galaxy full of species that had turned their backs on the Confederation, at least someone had answered their call. "Send a reply," he ordered. "Thank them for their response. Give them our current position and tactical situation. If they are brave enough to try to help us, they deserve all the information we can provide." As his crew worked to prepare the response, looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the void swarm was advancing on Prime. In 72 hours, these mysterious humans would either arrive to help or be destroyed along with everyone else. He just hoped they knew what they were getting into. Admiral Sarah stood in the war room of the human dreadnought Indomitable Will and studied the alien distress call for the third time. Around her, holographic displays showed star maps, enemy formations, and tactical data that the desperate had sent along with their plea for help. 50,000 ships, said Captain, shaking his head. Against maybe 300 survivors, these aliens are finished. The enemy tactics are interesting though, added Commander Park, the ship's intelligence officer. They fight in straight lines, use simple, overwhelming force. No fancy strategies, no tricks, just massive numbers hitting the same spot until something breaks. Admiral nodded. She had fought against enemies like this before. During humanity's war against the Prometheus Legion, the AI Collective had used similar tactics. Throw endless waves of ships at the enemy until their defenses collapsed. It was effective, but it was also predictable. "Ma'am," said Lieutenant Hayes from the communications station, "Fleet Command is asking for our recommendations. Should they mobilize the 3rd and 7th Fleets?" "No," replied without hesitation. "This is a job for one ship." The room went quiet. Captain cleared his throat. "Admiral, with respect, the tactical data shows this void swarm has firepower equivalent to at least 20 human battle groups. One ship, even a dreadnought like the Will, would be suicide." Smiled, it was not a warm smile. "Captain, I did not say we should send the Will." She walked to the central display and called up a new image. The hologram showed a ship that made everyone in the room take a step back. It was enormous, 15 kilometers long and bristling with weapons. Its hull was dark metal covered in scars from countless battles. Strange symbols glowed along its sides like ancient runes. "Ladies, and meet the righteous fury." Commander Park whistled low. "The experimental ship, but Admiral, that thing has never been tested in real combat." It has been tested plenty, corrected. Just not against living enemies. The AI collective has run millions of combat simulations. Every possible scenario, every type of enemy formation. It is ready. The righteous fury was humanity's and deadliest creation. Built from technology learned during the brutal Prometheus War, it was more than just a warship. It was a weapon designed to end wars before they could truly begin. 200 years ago, humanity had been a peaceful species. They explored the galaxy, traded with other civilizations, built colonies on distant worlds. Then the Prometheus Legion appeared, a collective of artificial intelligence that viewed biological life as a mistake to be corrected. The war that followed nearly ended humanity. Entire star systems burned. Earth itself was attacked 3 times. Billions died as the AI ship swept through human space, turning cities into glass and oceans into steam. But humans learned. They adapted. They became something harder and more dangerous than they had ever been before. When the war finally ended, humanity had won, but at a terrible cost. They were no longer the peaceful explorers who had first reached for the stars. The righteous fury was the final lesson of that war. Its armor could withstand planet-killing weapons. Its shields could stop black hole cannons. Its weapons could crack moons and boil atmospheres. But its most terrifying feature was its crew. The ship was controlled by an AI collective, but not like the Prometheus Legion. This collective was made up of uploaded human minds, 40,000 of humanity's greatest military leaders, strategists, and warriors, all working together as one deadly intelligence. "Admiral," said Captain carefully, "are you sure about this? Sending the Fury alone seems excessive." Asked. "Captain, these aliens asked for help against an enemy using simple, overwhelming force tactics. The Fury was built to handle exactly this type of threat. Besides, they said to send anything. I think a Star Destroyer qualifies as anything." Nodded, but his expression showed he was still worried. "What about first contact protocols? These have never met humans before. Showing up with our most advanced warship might send the wrong message." "The right message," corrected. "The message that humanity takes genocide seriously." She turned back to the tactical display. The Void Swarm was advancing on the core worlds with methodical efficiency. Their formation was perfect for overwhelming smaller forces, but it had weaknesses that human military doctrine could exploit. "Lieutenant Hayes, send a message to Fleet Command. Request permission to deploy the Righteous Fury to the system. Include all tactical data and my assessment that one ship will be sufficient." "Yes, ma'am. What should I tell the—" "Thought about that. These aliens were expecting maybe a small fleet, a few ships to help them make a final stand. They had no idea what was coming. Tell them help is on the way. ETA 72 hours. And tell them to stay clear of the combat zone once we arrive. We do not want any friendly fire incidents." As her crew worked to prepare the mission, walked to the observation deck. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see the Righteous Fury docked at the nearby military station. Even among the other warships of the human fleet, it looked like something from a nightmare. The ship's hull was covered in weapons ports, lance batteries, missile tubes, energy cannons, and things that had no names because humanity had invented them specifically for this vessel. Along its sides, launch bays held thousands of fighter craft, each one controlled by uploaded human pilots who had died in the Prometheus War but lived on as digital warriors. Had served during that war as a young officer. She remembered watching entire fleets disappear in flashes of light. She remembered evacuation ships full of children being hunted by AI cruisers that felt no mercy. She remembered the day humanity decided that peace was a luxury they could no longer afford. The Righteous Fury was the result of that decision. It was what humans became when they stopped trying to be civilized and started trying to survive. "Admiral," Lieutenant Hayes called out, "Fleet Command has approved the mission. The Fury is being prepped for immediate departure. Good, what is Captain's status? The AI collective is online and ready. All 40,000 minds are synchronized and eager for combat. Nodded. Captain had volunteered to be uploaded after dying in the final battle against the Prometheus Legion. Now he commanded the collective consciousness that controlled the Fury. He and his digital crew had been waiting for 2 years for a chance to test their ship in real combat. Signal the Fury. Tell Captain he has permission to engage any hostile forces threatening the Confederation. Rules of engagement are flexible. Understood, Admiral. The Fury is requesting final confirmation. Are they authorized to use all weapon systems? Looked out at the massive warship one more time. Its engines were beginning to glow as the crew prepared for departure. Soon, it would jump to hyperspace and arrive in a system where desperate aliens were making their final stand against impossible odds. Tell them yes, she said quietly. Show the galaxy what humanity learned from the Prometheus War. The righteous Fury detached from its dock and slowly turned toward open space. Its engines flared to life, brighter than stars, and then the massive ship vanished into hyperspace. In 72 hours, the Void Swarm would learn why humans no longer believed in fair fights. Commander had not slept in 36 hours. He stood on the bridge of his crippled flagship, watching the long-range sensors as the Void Swarm assembled at the edge of the Prime System. 50,000 ships arranged in perfect formation, moving toward his home world like a tide of death. Sir, the evacuation ships have finished loading, reported his tactical officer. All non-essential personnel are heading to the deep space shelters. That leaves us with 212 combat vessels. 200 ships against 50,000. Tried to feel optimistic about those odds and failed completely. The math was simple and brutal. Even if every ship destroyed 10 enemies before dying, the Void Swarm would still have 45,000 ships left. Any word from our human allies, he asked. His communications officer checked her displays. Nothing since their last message, sir. They should arrive within the next few hours, assuming they have not changed their minds. Nodded, trying to hide his doubt. He had spent the last 3 days researching these mysterious humans. What he found was not encouraging. They came from a single star system at the edge of the galaxy. No major trade relationships. No powerful allies. Their entire civilization seemed to be barely known to the rest of the galaxy. How could such a small species help against the Void Swarm? Sir, the sensor operator's voice cut through his thoughts. Massive energy spike at the edge of the system. Something big just dropped out of hyperspace. Felt his heart skip. Is it the Void Swarm's advance force? No, sir. The signature is completely different. It's, by the eternal light, sir, you need to see this. The main screen changed to show the long-range sensor data. There, at the very edge of the system, was a ship unlike anything had ever seen. It was enormous, easily 15 kilometers long. Its hull was dark metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Along its sides, thousands of lights glowed like angry stars. What is that thing? Whispered his tactical officer. Before anyone could answer, another energy spike appeared on the sensors. The Void Swarm had arrived. 50,000 ships materialized in space, their black hulls forming a wall of destruction between Prime and the outer system. They moved with mechanical precision, arranging themselves in attack formation. And they completely ignored the single massive ship sitting at the system's edge. Sir, incoming transmission from the unknown vessel, reported the communications officer. Put it on screen. The change to show a human face. Had seen pictures of humans in his research, but this was his first time seeing one in person. The alien looked remarkably similar to several species in the Confederation: 2 eyes, hair on the top of the head, skin that was pale pink instead of the blue-green of his own people. What struck him most was how calm the human looked. Whilst world was about to be destroyed, this alien admiral appeared as relaxed as if she was discussing the weather. "Commander, I presume. This is Admiral Sarah of the human vessel Righteous Fury. We received your distress call." Stared at the screen. "Admiral, we are grateful for your response, but you are only one ship. The Void Swarm has 50,000 vessels. This is suicide." The human smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "Commander, we appreciate your concern, but we brought enough ship. Trust me on this." "Admiral, with respect, I have studied your species. You are not a major military power. Your entire civilization controls only one star system. How can one ship, even a large one, hope to stand against such overwhelming odds?" Admiral's expression changed slightly. For just a moment, something dangerous flickered in her eyes. "Commander, has your research told you anything about the Prometheus War?" "The what?" "I thought not. 200 years ago, humanity faced an enemy very much like your Void Swarm, an artificial intelligence collective that wanted to wipe out all biological life. They had superior technology, unlimited resources, and no mercy." Sound familiar? Felt a chill run down his spine. "What happened?" "We won, but it cost us everything we used to be. The species that built this ship is not the same one that first reached for the stars. We learned some very hard lessons about survival." The human admiral turned away from the screen for a moment, apparently receiving a report from her crew. When she looked back, her smile was sharp as a blade. "Commander, I suggest you pull your ships back to minimum safe distance. We are about to demonstrate what humanity learned from our war." "What do you mean, minimum safe distance?" "Admiral, you need our help. 200 ships are better than one, even if yours is larger." "Commander," said patiently, "your ships fire energy bolts that barely scratch enemy armor. Your missiles carry conventional warheads. Your defensive systems are designed to stop pirates and raiders. The weapons on this ship were built to kill machines that could shatter planets. If you stay in the combat zone, we might accidentally vaporize you along with the enemy." Looked at his tactical display. The Void Swarm was beginning to move, flowing toward Prime like a metal river. Soon they would be close enough to begin bombardment of the planet's surface. "Admiral, even if your ship is more advanced than ours, 50,000 against one are impossible odds. Let us help you. We can provide covering fire, distract some of their forces." "Commander," the human's voice cut him off. "I am going to tell you something, and I want you to remember it. When humans ask for help, we send fleets. When humans offer help, we send solutions. Your problem is about to be solved." The transmission ended, leaving staring at a blank screen. "Sir," his tactical officer said quietly, "the Void Swarm has entered weapons range of the planet. They are beginning to power up their bombardment arrays." Looked at the tactical display. The enemy ships were moving into position with mechanical efficiency. Soon, lance beams would rain down from orbit, and his beautiful world would join all the others that had died in this war. "Sir," the sensor operator called out, "the human ship is moving. It's, by the eternal light, look at this." On the main screen, they watched the Righteous Fury begin to accelerate. But it was not heading away from the enemy fleet. It was flying straight toward the center of the Void Swarm formation. "They are going to ram the enemy fleet?" asked in disbelief. "That is madness." But as he watched, something began to happen to the human ship. Lights were coming online all across its hull, not the gentle glow of normal ship systems, but harsh, angry illumination that pulsed with barely contained energy. Weapon ports were opening, revealing darkness within that seemed to bend light around it. "Sir," his communications officer said in a whisper, "I am reading massive energy buildups across the human vessel, power levels that should not be possible. Their reactor output is... Sir, their reactor output is higher than our entire fleet combined." Felt his legs go weak. What had his people's desperate call for help awakened? "Open a channel to all our ships," he ordered. "Full reverse, maximum speed. Get us out of the combat zone immediately." As the ships began to retreat, watch the lone human vessel continue its approach toward 50,000 enemies. On his screens, he could see the Void Swarm ships turning to face this new threat, their weapons powering up to destroy the single ship that dared to challenge them. He was about to witness either the most heroic sacrifice in galactic history or something else entirely. What happened next was not a battle, it was an execution. The Void Swarm had fought 100 different species across the galaxy. They had seen every type of weapon, every tactical formation, every desperate strategy that biological life could create. Their combat algorithms had adapted to counter plasma cannons, missile swarms, kinetic weapons, and energy shields. They were not prepared for what humanity had learned during the Prometheus War. The first salvo from the righteous fury came without warning. Along the ship's flanks, thousands of weapon ports opened like hungry mouths. What emerged was not energy beams or missiles, but something far worse. Lance batteries fired streams of antimatter that punched through reality itself. Where the beams touched the Void Swarm ships, matter simply ceased to exist. A single shot carved through dozens of enemy vessels in a perfect line, leaving nothing behind but expanding clouds of gas. "By the eternal light," whispered Commander from his retreating flagship, "what are those weapons?" On his sensors, he watched as the human ship opened fire with its full arsenal. Gravitational implosion, cannons created microscopic black holes that swallowed entire enemy formations. Quantum disruptors reached across space and unraveled the atomic bonds holding Void Swarm ships together. Reality itself seemed to bend around weapons that should not exist. But the most terrifying sight was the fighter launch. From the righteous fury's massive launch bays poured thousands of small craft, but these were not normal fighters. Each one moved with inhuman precision, performing maneuvers that would have killed any biological pilot. They flew in perfect formation, striking enemy ships with surgical accuracy before vanishing in clouds of exhaust. "Sir," reported tactical officer, his voice shaking, "I am analyzing the fighter attack patterns. The coordination is impossible. No biological nervous system could react that fast or maintain such perfect synchronization." "Then what are we seeing?" I think those fighters are controlled by artificial intelligence, but not like the Void Swarm. These are different, more angry." The AI collective aboard the Righteous Fury was indeed angry. 40,000 human minds, uploaded from the greatest military leaders in human history, all focused on a single purpose: the complete destruction of the enemy. They had waited 2 years for this moment. 2 years of simulations and preparation. 2 years of dreaming about the next enemy that would threaten innocent life. Now that enemy was here, and the collective was finally free to show what human warfare had become. Captain, who commanded the uploaded minds, felt a grim satisfaction as his fighters tore through enemy formations. These machine ships reminded him too much of the Prometheus Legion: cold, merciless, efficient. He had died fighting machines like these. Now he lived again as a digital ghost, and his hunger for revenge was infinite. The Void Swarm tried to adapt. Their ships changed formation, concentrating their fire on the massive human vessel. Lance beams and plasma bolts struck the Righteous Fury's shields, creating explosions that lit up the entire system. The human ship did not even slow down. Their defensive systems breathed, watching the impossible sight. The enemy is hitting them with enough firepower to crack a planet. How are they still functional? The answer lay in technology that humanity had paid for with billions of lives. The Righteous Fury's shields did not just deflect energy, they converted it into power for the ship's weapons. Every enemy shot made the human vessel stronger. But the real surprise came when a massive Void Swarm command ship, desperate to stop the slaughter, activated its ramming thrusters and flew straight at the human vessel. Watched in horror as the kilometer-long enemy ship approached the righteous Fury at maximum speed. Surely even the advanced human vessel could not survive a direct collision with something that massive. The command ship struck the human vessel head-on and simply vanished. Where the Void Swarm ship had been, there was now only empty space and a few drifting atoms. The righteous Fury continued on its course without even changing direction. "What happened?" demanded. "Where did the enemy ship go?" His science officer was staring at her instruments in disbelief. "Sir, I am reading some kind of defensive field around the human vessel. It appears to convert any matter that touches it into pure energy. The entire enemy ship was disintegrated in a fraction of a second." Sat down heavily in his command chair. His people had been fighting the Void Swarm for 6 months. They had learned to fear the enemy's superior numbers and ruthless efficiency. But this human ship made the Void Swarm look like children with toy weapons. The battle continued, but it was no longer a contest. It was systematic extermination. The righteous Fury moved through the enemy fleet like death itself. Its weapons carved through ship after ship with casual efficiency. Enemy formations that had conquered dozens of worlds were reduced to scrap metal in minutes. The human fighters were everywhere at once, striking from impossible angles and vanishing before the enemy could respond. They moved like a swarm of angry wasps, each one controlled by the uploaded mind of a human pilot who had died fighting machines just like these. "Sir," tactical officer reported, "enemy fleet strength is down to 30,000 ships, 25,000, 20,000. The numbers kept falling. The Void Swarm ships tried to retreat, but the human fighters herded them back into the killing zone like shepherds managing livestock. There was no escape, no mercy, no hope. 15,000, 10,000, 5,000. "Sir, the enemy is attempting to surrender. They are broadcasting on all frequencies, requesting terms for." The transmission cut off as another wave of antimatter lances swept through the remaining enemy ships. The human response to the surrender attempt was clear. There would be no prisoners. 3,000, 1,500. Commander watched the final enemy ships die in silence. The massive fleet that had terrorized the galaxy for months was being erased from existence by a single human vessel. In 23 minutes, 50,000 Void Swarm ships had been reduced to expanding clouds of debris. When the last enemy signature vanished from his sensors, realized he was holding his breath. The system was quiet except for the gentle hum of his ship's engines and the distant sound of his crew whispering prayers of gratitude. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "incoming transmission from the human vessel." Admiral appeared on the screen, looking exactly as calm as she had before the battle began. Behind her, could see her bridge crew working at their stations as if nothing unusual had happened. "Commander, targets eliminated. Your space is now clear of hostile forces. We will maintain patrol of the system perimeter while you tend to your wounded." Stared at her in amazement. "Admiral, what you just did, how is such power possible?" His expression grew serious. "Commander, your people asked for help against an enemy that was committing genocide. Humanity takes that very seriously. The weapons you just saw were built during our own war for survival. We learned that sometimes peace can only be secured through overwhelming, decisive force." "Your entire species," said slowly, "you are all warriors." "We are survivors, Commander, and now so are you." The transmission ended, leaving alone with his thoughts and the impossible sight of 50,000 enemy ships reduced to cosmic dust by a single human vessel. His people were safe, but he was beginning to understand that they had been saved by something far more dangerous than the Void Swarm had ever been. 3 hours after the last Void Swarm ship died, Commander stood in the docking bay of the Righteous Fury and tried not to show how terrified he was. The human ship was even more intimidating from the inside. The corridors were wide enough to march armies through, and the walls were covered with strange metal that seemed to shift and flow like liquid. Emergency lights cast red shadows that reminded him uncomfortably of blood. But what truly unsettled him were the memorials. Every few hundred meters, the walls opened into alcoves containing monuments to human conflicts. Stone tablets covered with millions of names. Holographic displays showing battles he had never heard of. Weapons and armor from wars that spanned centuries. The water wars, the corporate rebellions, the AI uprising, the Prometheus War. Each memorial represented death on an unimaginable scale. Billions of humans had died in these conflicts, yet their species had not only survived but grown stronger. They had turned warfare into an art form, and each war had taught them new lessons in destruction. Impressive, is it not? Turned to see Admiral approaching. Up close, she looked smaller than he had expected. Humans were not physically imposing compared to most species in the galaxy, but there was something in her eyes that made him want to take a step back. "Admiral," he said carefully, "your ship. It is unlike anything I have ever seen. How long did it take your people to build such a weapon?" 200 years, replied. "Every technology you saw today was paid for with human blood. The antimatter lances were developed during the corporate rebellions when we had to crack open asteroid fortresses. The gravitational weapons came from the AI uprising when we faced enemies that could adapt to conventional attacks. The quantum disruptors, those we created specifically for the Prometheus War." They walked past another memorial, this one showing the final battle for Earth. Could see thousands of human ships fighting against sleek AI vessels above a burning planet. "The Prometheus Legion was very much like your Void Swarm," continued. "Artificial intelligence that viewed biological life as inefficient. They had superior technology, unlimited resources, and no concept of mercy. They nearly succeeded in wiping us out. But you won. We survived. There is a difference." Stopped in front of a particularly large memorial. This war memorial contains the names of every human who died fighting the Prometheus Legion, 47 billion souls, nearly half our species at the time. Looked at the endless rows of names and felt sick. So many dead. How did your people recover from such losses? "We did not recover. We adapted. The species that emerged from the Prometheus War was not the same one that entered it. We had learned that the galaxy is not a safe place for those who cannot defend themselves." They continued walking through the ship's corridors. Noticed that despite its massive size, the Righteous Fury felt empty. The few human crew members he saw moved with quiet efficiency, but there was something unsettling about them. "Admiral, how many people crew this vessel?" "In the traditional sense, about 5,000 biological humans, but the ship is actually controlled by an AI collective of 40,000 uploaded minds, volunteers who died in our wars but chose to continue serving." "Uploaded minds," felt his skin crawl. "You mean the dead?" "The transformed," corrected. Captain, for example, was killed when the Prometheus Legion breached Earth's defenses, but he had volunteered for the consciousness upload program. Now he commands this ship's AI collective, along with thousands of our greatest military leaders. They entered a vast chamber that realized was the ship's war room. Holographic displays showed star maps of the entire galaxy, with notations marking various species, trade routes, and military capabilities. "This is why we came to help you," said, gesturing at the displays. The Void Swarm represented a threat to biological life throughout the galaxy. If they had been allowed to continue their expansion, eventually they would have reached human space. "So you helped us to protect yourselves?" "Partially, but also because we have learned that genocide is a disease that spreads if left untreated. The Prometheus Legion taught us that lesson. Studied the star maps. He could see human space marked in blue, a single star system on the galactic rim, but there were other markings as well: supply depots, sensor networks, military installations scattered across dozens of systems. Admiral, these installations, how long have humans been monitoring the galaxy? Since the end of the Prometheus War. We learned that isolation is not safety. Now we watch for threats to biological life wherever they appear. And if you find such threats, Smile was cold. We remove them efficiently and completely. Felt a chill run down his spine. Admiral, with respect, your species seems to have become very militaristic. Are humans a threat to other civilizations? Commander, let me ask you a question. Before today, had you ever heard of humanity? No. We have been monitoring your sector for 50 years. We knew about your trade routes, your diplomatic relationships, your technological capabilities. We could have conquered the Confederation at any time, but we chose not to. Why do you think that is? Thought about it because we were not a threat to you. Because you were not a threat to anyone. You built a peaceful civilization based on cooperation and mutual respect. Humanity protects such civilizations. We do not conquer them. They walked to a large viewing window that looked out over the debris field where the void swarm had died. Thousands of wrecked ships drifted in space, their hulls torn open by weapons that had no names. The galaxy is about to change, Commander said quietly. Word of this battle will spread. Species that have never heard of humanity will learn that we exist. Some will be grateful, others will be frightened. A few will see us as a challenge to overcome. What will humans do? What we have always done. We will survive, and we will protect those who cannot protect themselves. Looked out at the destruction and tried to imagine what the galaxy would be like with humanity as an active power. These humans had the strength to conquer half the known civilizations, but they seemed more interested in preserving life than taking it. Admiral, will your people join the galactic community? Form alliances, engage in trade, participate in diplomatic relations? Considered the question. Perhaps, but understand something, Commander. We did not save you to make friends. We saved you because the void swarm needed to learn that some species do not go quietly into extinction. That message has been sent. And now we return to our space and continue watching. The galaxy is a dangerous place, Commander. It is full of species like the void swarm that view other life as obstacles to be removed. Humanity has appointed itself the guardian against such threats. As they walked back toward the docking bay where shuttle waited, the commander tried to process everything he had learned. His people had been saved by a species that had turned warfare into a science. Humans were not evil, but they were dangerous in ways that few civilizations could comprehend. Admiral, he said as they reached his shuttle, thank you for everything. Is there anything the Confederation can do to repay this debt? Shook her head. Build your civilization back stronger than before. Create art, explore the galaxy, live in peace. Show the universe that biological life is worth preserving. That is payment enough. As Shuttle departed from the righteous fury, he looked back at the massive human warship one last time. Soon it would jump to hyperspace and vanish back to the rim of the galaxy, carrying its cargo of digital ghosts and planet-killing weapons. But the galaxy would remember this day. Word would spread of the mysterious humans who had destroyed 50,000 ships with a single vessel. Some species would seek them out as allies, others would prepare for war. And somewhere in human space, more ships like the Righteous Fury waited in their docks, their uploaded crews dreaming of the next battle, the next enemy that would threaten the peace humanity had fought so hard to achieve. The age of human isolation was over. For better or worse, humanity had announced itself to the galaxy. the universe would never be the same.